Hi, my name's Caroline, and I have been working in the area of anxiety for over 15 years, so I know exactly what's happening, the patterns, and also the neuroscientific experiences that our physical body is having. So in this video, I want to give you a little insight into actually what's going on a physical level and a subconscious level when you're feeling anxious. Through my work, one of the most common themes that I see is that anxiety is driven by two main fears. The first fear is not feeling in control, fear of not being in control, feelings of helplessness, feelings of powerlessness. The second is not feeling safe, so fear of not feeling safe or having our safety potentially threatened. Because the mind is tuned and programmed for survival, it will send messages if we're in danger or feeling in danger. It will send messages to our body to respond. The cells in our body, the organs, the brain chemicals, the stomach chemicals are all responding to the feelings and emotions that we feel when we are having a stressful situation or feeling a discomfort, certainly through emotion. You can liken emotion to be a bit like a compass because it's sending messages to the body all the time. Back in the ancient times, and you've probably heard this before, we had to protect ourselves from being eaten or being attacked by things. So the body and the mind are programmed to go through a certain process that helps us to fight or flight. And you've probably heard that term before, but that's literally what's happening. The thing is in this modern age, we, or many people, are spending a lot of time in the fight flight mode, and this isn't healthy for our bodily environment. We're not really meant to stay in stress with the body pumping around adrenaline and cortisol and getting ready to battle. That's literally what the body's thinking, is we're going to a battle here, or we need to run away from this thing that's going to eat us. And when we're spending too much time in that kind of stress state, it's actually really affecting our entire physical system. I talk about that more in my other programs, but what I wanted to do is give you a bit of an insight into what's actually happening on a physical and mental level. So let's just talk about emotions. You've heard of the word sadness, you've heard about the emotion of anger, disappointment, shame, all of those feelings and emotions, embarrassment, humiliation, are causing our body to respond in a certain way because they make us feel pain usually. And this is what we would call emotions that can drive our survival. But emotions that also leave what is called a memory stress imprint in our subconscious mind of, oh, that feeling and experience wasn't very comfortable. So let me give you an example. When you were in your younger years, perhaps you were made to stand up and talk in front of everybody, and that made you feel really humiliated. Or perhaps you felt the pressure from your exam times where you had a sense of wanting to achieve a certain grade or a certain expectation set by others. Or maybe there was a time where your parent had to leave you at day school, or you felt a separation for some reason. Maybe they went on holiday and you were left alone. When we're younger, our mind isn't able to emotionally regulate as easily. So we take these echoes with us into adulthood, these echo stresses of abandonment or rejection, or feeling embarrassed, or feeling we have to fulfill the expectations of others, and if we don't do that they might not love us at a very deeper level, or they might be very disappointed in us, and that will cause us pain. And so what happens is these unregulated emotions get stuck in our subconscious mind, or they get stuck and get pushed to the back of our mind to deal with later because we're not able to emotionally regulate up until our early teens, and then our brain isn't fully developed until our adulthood, actually through till about our late 20s. And so what's happening is the mind and the body are recording these feelings and emotions of, oh, there was this time where I felt sad, or there was this time where I felt embarrassed, but we don't remember the memory, we lose the connection. And this is to do with what's going on in the brain, to do with neurons and neural pathways, but I won't go into that today because I don't want to confuse you too much. We take these feelings and emotions. The mind then remembers all that didn't feel good, and so the body responds. all send out the brain chemicals, send out the cortisol, send out the adrenaline, and the organs in the body, they're all responding, the cells. When that pain is felt, we must fight or flight. When we sleep at night, our eyes move from left to right very quickly, and this is called rapid eye movement. And that helps us to process our emotions, to process the experiences that we've had throughout the day, to process the conversations we've had, and it helps to sort through the data and problem solve, rationalize, and then often you can wake up the next day feeling refreshed. So if you had a little bit of a stressful argument with a work colleague or a partner, or somebody bumped into your car, or there was a really awkward conversation that you kept ruminating about, when you go to sleep at night, chances are that the brain has been able to regulate those emotions, and you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, I'm not so bothered about that now, that's all water under the bridge. That's because the brain hemispheres have harmonized in your sleep. When this harmonization doesn't happen, through sleep disruption, through not getting enough sleep, through things that might affect our sleep that we do before bed, such as on our phones or drinking alcohol, or certain medications can interfere with our sleep, or certain foods that we eat, all of these things can disrupt our sleep, and we don't get that full, or we can just have stuff on our mind, where you go to sleep and you're just thinking about problems that have been created during the day, or something you're worried about the next day, and then that can obviously keep you awake. And so the rapid eye movement doesn't work as well. So you can wake up the next day and you're feeling a bit rubbish, you're still holding on to that stress or that emotion, that awkward conversation, that embarrassing situation, or that rejection you felt, or the disappointment that you had. As you can tell, there's a lot for the mind to be doing in our sleep. So it's a very important part of our experience, of our health. So when it comes to anxiety, there's two predominant fears: fear of not feeling safe, fear of not being in control. And these feelings and emotions can stem from past experiences. They can be from experiences that happened to us, around us, seeing other people, experiencing stress, feeling a separation, feeling an abandonment, feeling embarrassed, feeling a rejection, feeling a humiliation or shame, feelings and emotions of other people that we want to see our caregivers happy, or we do what we can, we change our behaviour to make them happy, but we're still picking up their feelings and emotions. And when we're younger, the brain isn't able to process things as easily. It's a bit like sending an email and you have big attachments and the email doesn't send because the attachments are too big. That's the same as how our brain works in terms of processing our feelings and emotions. If it's too big, too stressful, it pushes it to the back of the mind and thinks, I'll deal with it later. The only thing is, though, is that this unprocessed feeling and emotion at the back of your mind, so that's where you might have heard the term push it to the back of your mind, push it down, doesn't have anywhere to go. And so it kind of sits, if you like, in like the attic of your mind. And when that same feeling and that same emotion is felt, it triggers a response in your body. Your body thinks, oh, there's danger here, this was uncomfortable, and then we'll go into what can essentially be a feeling of anxiety or panic. For some people, it can be emotional outbursts when there's been a build-up of emotion and this emotion hasn't been processed in the way it should have been. So there's a lot going on. One of the other fundamental things that I notice with people who have anxiety is that they're often very good at suppressing their emotion, to not showing emotion, and have got really good at no expression of emotion. This is a behaviour that we either learn as a child, i.e., it's not safe to have emotion, it's embarrassing to have emotion, it's uncomfortable to have emotion, it's shameful to have emotion. Emotion wasn't shown to me in my family when I was going through my upbringing. We learn from our role models about how to emotionally regulate. So that can be something that we can take into adulthood as well. But that's a very common thing that I see in people who have anxiety, where they're very good at suppressing their emotions. The thing is, emotion is moving energy. It needs to move up and out of the body. It needs an outlet. So that's how anxiety is then comes around, because it's an energy that has nowhere to go, that's got past stuck memories or past emotions that have felt very similar before and haven't been processed in the mind in the way that they should have been. Another pattern that I see in people who have anxiety is perfectionist tendencies and high achieving. The bar is so high that when this particular person, you, if you're listening and you resonate with this, you try to fulfill that expectation, but it never happens because the expectation is too high, then there's a feeling of a disappointment, of disbelief, of reinforcing negative self-beliefs, of reinforcing the I'm not good enough, feelings and emotions that will have been felt before in the past. So maybe you could just sit with that and notice where that might have come from. Usually this can stem from the pressure that we feel when studying, the pressure that we felt in our family environment for success, being rewarded for doing well and punished for not doing well. You know, we learn to link doing well and impressing our parents and achieving highly gives us love. And so that can be a learned behavior. And it's a very common thing that I see. So those are just some of the areas that I see as being very common with the anxiety, feelings and emotions. When it comes to panic attacks, well, that's just when the body is just completely overloaded with adrenaline and cortisol and fear that it just doesn't know how to cope. And it's felt this feeling so many times before that it literally goes into a state of panic. It's like, I really don't know how to deal with all of these feelings and emotions coming at once. And so that's how panic attacks can come around. So in the next few videos, the next 2 videos, I'm going to show you some ways that you can manage your anxiety, reduce your anxiety, and for some people, be able to get immediate relief from anxiety with immediate effect.